Hello everyone. I'm starting to record this video for the third fucking time. And let me tell you why. Because when, I don't know, when I'm not talking to a camera, when I'm not trying to make a video, there's complete silence on my street. As soon as I press record, every fucking car goes through my street. Every person, like, I don't know. It's like they hear that I turn on the camera and they are beginning to come. Even now, a car passed in front of my window, but you didn't hear it because I now closed the window so I can film my video in peace. The only problem is that it's hot as fuck today, and I will probably sweat a little because, there's no fresh air coming into my room. But whatever. I wanted to talk a form of punishment today, which is amazing in my opinion. And the reason it is amazing is because you depend on people. And let me explain. I'm talking about a form of punishment that was used mostly in Southeast Asia and China for hundreds of years. And the name of this punishment is Kongwe. Yeah, I know. I don't speak Chinese. Don't be so fucking surprised. Now, what does this form of punishment mean? This means that the person who committed a crime, instead of going to prison, a wooden board was locked on their necks. They couldn't take it off, and it was so big they couldn't lay down properly. And besides the fact that, they couldn't lay down, it was heavy as shit. Now you might say, okay, it was, a heavy fucking board or whatever, like minor inconvenience, right? No. The fun part about all of this is that besides the fact that it's uncomfortable and heavy to carry around, you couldn't eat with this wooden board on your neck. And what did this mean? It meant that you would starve to death without the help of other people. Now, as far as I understand, this meant that you get this wooden board, but you were able to roam freely around the streets. Now, this meant that basically everyone who saw you knew that you were a criminal. Pretty straightforward. You see a man with a huge fucking wooden board on his head, you know it's a criminal. But what's more interesting about this whole idea was that their crimes were displayed on this board. And, when someone saw you, they knew what was the crime that you committed. What was the reason of you getting this board on your neck? And that's when the fun begins. You would starve to death if you were on your own, but people were able to help you. And if you committed a crime that's not so bad for the general public, or you didn't actually hurt anyone, they might have fed you and you might have survived. But if you were to commit heinous, I don't know how to pronounce it, but if you were to commit a really, really bad crime, and people saw that, that would have meant that people will not feed you. Thus, you would die of starvation. And why I think that this idea is really amazing is that because our juridical system usually it is not the best. Didi was the first person that came to my mind when it comes to a board like this, especially because he he didn't face any charges for his actions, and there's a whole plethora of things he committed besides the thousands of bottles of laced baby oil. But a person like him should have gotten a wooden board like this. If everyone sees what are the crimes that he committed, people would just let him starve to death, most certainly. And so that's why I think that's a great idea, because there are crimes which, in my opinion, should not be as severe as they are. For example, tax fraud. Yes, it's not okay to not pay your taxes, especially because everyone does. But do I think that you would need jail time for that? Not necessarily. It's not something where you actually made other people suffer. You just didn't give your percentage to the government, which in most cases it's understandable, because like, why the fuck would you want to pay taxes? Why the fuck would you want to give your government half of your paycheck? Because if you think about it, the government never actually worked half of your shifts. So it just makes sense that a crime like this would not be so severe in the eyes of the people on the street, so they might just actually feed you and you would survive. But let's say you're a pedophile, which is, of course, a really bad thing. Now, let's imagine people see you with this wooden board. They already know you're a criminal. And when they actually go closer to read what's on that board and they see that you're a pedophile, it's not just that they will not feed you, they will probably even beat you up, on top of you already having that 40 kilos, 44 pounds of wood on your fucking neck, So that's why I think it's fun. It's a form of punishment which would really work well because you would see how people think, right? And I think that you could actually even find new criminals this way. And let me tell you why. Because, for example, let's think about it. Who would be the only type of person who would feed a pedophile, for example? Other pedophiles. Because, you know, if you think about it, who the fuck has empathy for pedophiles except other pedophiles? So, if we take this idea further, you know, there are crimes which, of course, nobody would like to be displayed. Like, if they committed it, nobody would want other people to know this about them. Like, you wouldn't want other people to know that you are a pedophile. But they still would know. And when you see someone handing a pedophile food, it means that they have sympathy for a pedophile, which means that more likely than not, they also are a pedophile. Now, my only problem with this form of punishment is that this could be played out, like, for example, relatives, friends, family, whatever. If they care about you, they could go up to you and give you food, but I'm sure that they could find some way to, I don't know, not let this happen. And I think that in most cases, this form of punishment would actually be beneficial. And you know, there are forms of punishment where people generally are put in prison for things that are not that bad. So yeah, this form of punishment would be amazing. I'm not saying that there should be no court hearings or whatever. Like, of course, hire a lawyer, try to combat your case. But if you can't, these forms of punishment, I think, would be real fun. At least if you're not a criminal. If you are, too bad. But again, it depends what type of crime you committed. If you're a pedophile, be prepared to be beaten up day by day. But if, I don't know, again, you sold weed, or I don't know, you committed tax fraud or whatever, I don't know, I don't feel like that should be a crime that deserves jail necessarily. And it's not because I want to commit these crimes. I have to say these things, and I don't support these crimes as well. But I'm just telling this in a way that, you know, these crimes do not affect anybody. But generally, I think that this would be an amazing way of punishment because, you know, people could actually just survive this. It would be much faster than spending years in jail. And the people who actually committed bad crimes will not be able to survive. Because let's say you're a pedophile, nobody will feed you. You're gonna die. And I think that's a good thing. You know, one less pedophile in the world is a better world in my eyes. So yeah, that's my whole idea. That's my whole point of view. I just saw this form of punishment and torture in a video on Instagram, and I thought that it's interesting, so that's why I decided to make this video. I hope you liked it. I don't know what else could I say about this. I think I made my points pretty well. And yeah, if you don't want to be tortured this way, just don't commit crimes, kids. And yeah, stay safe. Bye.